Hi, this is Llyn Hunter, L-L-Y-N-H-U-N-T-E-R. Today we're going to be doing the background on the alligator shoes. And basically I wanted to show you some of the materials we're going to be using. I use a variety of brushes. These guys are getting on the old side. At this point, we're going to be doing liquid acrylics, so I don't want to be using my best brushes here. This brush is probably, oh, I hate to say it, this brush is probably about 20 years old, and it's on its way out, but it still works well. This is a Raphael sable brush, and because I don't mind if it's dying, it's like, you can tell, it's like it's been in the water a little bit too much. It's like the lacquer is coming off the handle, and if you look at, I don't know if you can see the fibers on the tip here, they're not as good as they used to be, but it still holds a nice point. Sable will always hold a nice point, but I think when I originally paid for this brush 20 years ago, it was 20 bucks. So this was a rather expensive brush, but it is on its last leg, so I am going to be using it for with liquid acrylic because it's still as good. I should be throwing this out. It's a great brush, but I'm still using it because of that. These are a couple of new brushes. I'm not real happy with these, but they still hold a great point. They were very inexpensive. They're from the artist shop. The biggest problem with these are the ferrules. They used very poor metal on the ferrules, and the ferrules break. The ferrules are the middle part of the brush that hold the brush tips to the wood, and they don't last long. I'm afraid that this company makes some nice handles and what have you and gives you a good bang for the buck, but I'm using them because, again, I don't mind these brushes dying using liquid acrylic. Again, these are Laurel Cornell's. If you want some of the best inexpensive acrylic brushes that have acrylic fibers in them, the Laurel Cornell's are pretty good. But you can see on this one, the tip of it is starting to go. After a while with water and abuse, because I do abuse my brushes, they don't hold a point as well as the sable brushes do after a while, and they get kind of, I should say the tips bend after a while. Especially when you scumble your paper and you abuse your brush on paper, they don't do well after a while. Whereas this is a sable brush, and it's lasted me 20 years. So honestly, if you can afford the sable, don't look at the price. Raphael is good. Winsor Newton Series 7 is still my absolute favorite, but I have several Raphaels. They're both expensive, but honestly, you get what you pay for. Trust me, if you're going to be doing a lot of painting, even if you're not, own at least one really good brush in your kit, and I would say make it a number 3 or a number 2. You will use it for everything, and once you start using one, you'll never go back. You really, it's amazing what the difference that natural brushes make. I don't know which I'll use with each of these in the painting. It's just I will have an arsenal of brushes at my disposal, and I'll switch them off going, okay, this is not small enough, this isn't holding detail enough, and that's just me in general. This is my palette. You can tell it has had some abuse. The paint that's on there is already dried. I've scrubbed it out as much as I can. If I really wanted to get every little piece of extra paint off, there are some cleaners that you can get to get all of that off. I'm not being that picky with my palette. It's not necessary. This particular palette is what I'm using for liquid acrylic. The little cups hold the liquid acrylic well, and then you basically can mix the paint in here. When this part of the palette gets too extensive, I'll mix the paint on the sides and these flat portions here to get the pool of paint to take my paint from. When this palette gets too full or has too much paint in it, I'll take my paper towel and I'll just clear it all out and start again. This also comes with a cap that goes over the top that you can buy that keeps the paint fresh longer. So if you're stopping and you don't have time to use up all the paint at once. If you can't get one of those caps, I don't have mine here at the moment, of course, use a piece of saran wrap to cover it in between paintings. A piece of saran wrap will usually keep everything from evaporating for a while. But the types of paints we're going to use, this is Schminke, or Schminke, Schminke. So it's Schminke, yeah, is the German. This is an arrow color. This is basically, it's liquid acrylic. It's normally used for airbrushes. This is FW, similar type of stuff. And the third type, this is golden. And these are all made for airbrushes. It's a liquid acrylic made for an airbrush, but I use it with a regular brush. It comes out liquid. And the only difference between, say, using that and regular watercolor is that it's not in a cake form, or it's not in a tube form. So you will use it in a similar way, except this stuff's really concentrated, so you have to use an eyedropper to reduce the color. So I just want to show you fast how I fill my palette, so you can see. We're going to be doing the greens of the forest. So this is, let's see here. This is May green. This is like a permanent green. So it's a yellow green. So I'm putting just a few drops in there and kind of squeezing it out. Let me count them. I usually don't count the drops. I eyeball that the amount that it fills that palette. I'm going to be using, you want to shake up the colors before you use them, because the pigment lies in the bottom. Let me see if I can show you one that I haven't shaked up yet. See, the pigment will lie in the bottom here, and when you shake it up, that gets all the pigment scattered amongst I was forgetting oh crap, my apologies. I can't remember the medium, within the medium. So you've got a liquid medium, and the pigment is within the acrylic medium. And I will take an eyedropper full, and I'm going to put this, this is a yellow orange, and let's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 drops. 5 or 6 drops of the color that you're going to use. And I've got this is a rose madder, basically a magenta, any type of magenta red, because when you mix magenta with green, you'll get purples and you'll get blues when you're working with liquid acrylic. So like I said, about 5 drops. Then this is a blue-green, turquoise green. Okay. And I'm going to put 2 pools of, this is a lemon yellow. Let's see here. It's like how much of this I have left. It's like I'm getting down. I've got to get out a different bottle of lemon yellow. This one has finally bit the big one. Let me tell you this too. With the liquid acrylic, it'll last you a really good long time. This is straight. This is just straight yellow. So it's got a little bit of red in it, whereas a lemon yellow will have a little bit of blue to it. I always I have a tendency to go towards the warmth rather than coolness when it comes to color. And that's just a personal taste. I'm going to have a small drop of, this is Sepia, we've been using burnt sienna. This is a little bit of sepia to add to the colors. And then I've got a regular turquoise blue, which I don't need as much of because we do have the magenta to add to the green to get my purples, but it's just a okay, just in case. Now you've got all the colors there. What I'll do now is I'm going to add about the same amount of water. So it's going to be about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So whatever, if you, it's a 1-to-1, about a 1-to-1 mix of water to the paint. And this is eyeballing it. If some of the colors are more saturated than others, so you might want to add more or less water. When in doubt, err towards the less than more. And so we've got our, let's see here, sorry about that, jarring the camera just a little bit there. And I'll start out a little wide on this so you can see what I'm doing, and then I will go in tighter. But we're going to start out with, again, you want to go from light to dark. So I'm going to start out by mixing up a light green. We're taking some of this and I've got my let's see if I can put it in the camera so maybe you can see better what I'm doing with a little bit of the water on the side. The only problem is that gets in the way of my light. But basically I've got water off to the side here, and I'm mixing in I'm not going to be using any yellow at all per se. I might want to do, if I get this yellow too green, after a while I'll fill up another cup of just plain yellow. But right now, one of the things you want to do is you don't want to put green into yellow. You want to put yellow into green. Well, that's not true either, because what's happening, you can see it's like, okay, the yellow will go green really, really fast. And whereas I'm mixing over here, you can see when I'm trying to throw the green and the yellow into the green, it's not going where I want it in color-wise real fast, whereas this is, the yellow is getting more what I want. Yeah, over there. Let's move the water so my shadows with my light. I'm still not great with the camera on this, my apologies, and it's like that's what this is for, so you can see what I'm doing. But I'm going to start with this. You can see this is just a little pool of color here, and I'm going to start just applying it as the base coat, kind of randomly. And that's a little bit too yellow, so I'm going to throw a little bit more green in there. And I will mix right on the paper. And right now I'm being pretty random with this yellow-green because I can get darker really fast. And the thing is that I want a lot of brilliance to come out of this green, because I'm going to be doing the alligators themselves. I've decided are going to be a kind of a sienna, going towards black, gray. I might even do, I haven't decided, I probably will do them cooler then, since I'm going to be doing the background pretty hot, I think. You know, it's like you can start planning things, and it's like you will always change your mind as to what you're going to be doing in the middle of a painting. You might, in your head, kind of have a a plotting of what you're going to do, but it won't necessarily turn out the way that you expect it to go. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. The number of paintings I've done in my life that have come out exactly as I planned them to have been next to none. A lot of them, they often come out the way I want them to come out, and they often have a lot of elements of what I planned them to be. But as you're painting, you'll discover, oh, I really don't like that, or I really wanted more of this. And you make all kinds of decisions while you're painting. And so don't count on you're always knowing what you're going to be doing with the piece when you first start out. Things will change. So we're getting the initial greens laid in. One of the reasons why I chose to do this with liquid acrylic is that I know there are people who can get really nice bright greens out of just using the traditional watercolor, and I just have not found the right greens yet. I think that's my biggest problem. It's like I don't experiment enough with some of the colors that you can get from different watercolor companies. I've always been a bit cheap with my paints and my materials just because I've never had a lot of money. So it's like I tend to make things last. I tend to put my money into brushes more than paints, which is very strange but true. But anyways, and you'll know when you go to the store, when you're paying $5 and $6 for a tube of paint, if money is dear, that's a lot of money to spend. The good news is that with most watercolors, a little bit of watercolor goes a long, long way. You can tell I only used 5 drops of paint for each one of these cups, and that paint will last me not only for this painting. I've got another painting that I'm going to be doing with the same basic colors because I want the background to be primarily greens and blues and purples. So it's like this'll go a long way for this one pan of color will take me through, actually probably could take me through at least 3 paintings, if not 4, with just little dots of paint. Okay, so you can see I've laid down the brilliant yellow-green in a lot of areas. Now I'm going to start darkening it up. Let's see here. See, now this green is way, way too dark. It's a good blue-green, but it's just too intense. I'm going to throw a little turquoise in there. And a little bit of the magenta. Now you can see when I throw in the magenta, look at that. It went almost black. And if I you throw some more of the blue-green in there and just a little magenta, and what it does is you get purpley grays. Get this nice purpley gray. So it takes just a little bit, and what you have to do is you have to thin that out. You can see what I'm doing here. And that's a little bit too on the blue side, so I'm going to throw some more of the yellow-green in there. There. And this makes for more natural greens. Your greens that come straight out of the bottle never look realistic. They almost look plastic. And trying to get the right types of greens can sometimes be difficult. Okay, so I'm going to use, actually I think I'm going to go here. I'm using this yellow-green that I created a little bit earlier, and I'm going to use that to spot the tops of these, the undergrowth foliage. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And what I'll probably do is take some of that purple. Once I get the this green on top all laid out, I'll take that purple that I mixed up earlier and use it as my shadow undergrowth. Yeah, that's looking good. And I'm throwing in between this yellow green and the mixed up a little bit with the magenta, and I'll throw them back and forth because this is transparent, so you're going to get a varietal of greens this way, and they'll flow into each other. Plus I've got that burnt sienna that I originally, if you didn't see the first part of the painting, all the browns on the alligator shoes thus far, that's traditional Winsor Newton professional watercolors burnt sienna, and I've just used just burnt sienna to put down the initial shadows. And you can already start to see with the little bit of the yellow green that I put in there, and I'm throwing this permanent green over the top of it. And the colors are already just starting to blend and mix. And I'm not being real precise right now. I'm just being kind of put the colors where the colors go. Because primarily, if I want things to look more precise towards the end, I will do it with pen when I'm cleaning up. Like in these fern leaves here, I'll probably go back in with them and define the actual leaves themselves. And then if I've gone outside the line, I'll put the line around them to define those more. So that right now I'm concerned about staying within the lines, but not excessively concerned about staying within lines. You can see I'm definitely creating fern leaves here, and I am definitely thinking about the shape of the leaf and staying within the line, but I'm not fully doing it. And what I'm going to probably do with these longer blades that are sticking up here, I am being more precise with these guys. But I'm probably going to go over them with a darker green. But by putting this undercoatings of a variety of green, when I go over the tops of them, I don't know. Actually, I might just leave them that color. Because these guys, the funny, I was thinking skunk cabbage when I was doing that. I grew up in Michigan the first 10 years of my life, and we did have a swamp nearby us, and skunk cabbage was one of those plants that it smells terrible, but it looks beautiful. I like the leaves on it. And obviously, I remember things from the time when I was a little kid. And the funny thing is that as I've gotten older, I hate to tell you this, guys, I'm 62. Age is an interesting thing, but you think that, oh, you're gonna forget so many things, and you do. You forget a lot, but you remember a lot too. And I think the thing is that people think, okay, if you're going to live 60 years or you're going to live 70 years, you're going to forget all this stuff. And it's like, no, there's a crud load that you remember, especially if you don't drink. I'm not a drinker. My worst vice is coffee. I'm a really big coffee drinker. I'm into it more uppers than downers, because as a storyboard artist for animation, you have got to be able to do without sleep. I mean, there are too many deadlines that you need to make that you can't. I don't know how many all-nighters I've pulled in my life because the job had to be done, and it didn't matter, you know, so if you wanted the next job, you gotta make sure you do a good job on this one. Yeah, that's looking nice. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is go in and get those skunk cabbage pieces with a darker green. And what I'm doing, okay, I put down a piece of color. That piece of color is a little bit dark, so what I'm doing is I'm dipping into the water, and I'm mixing into the water right on the blob of color itself as I paint it in. So I'm again, this is a wet on dry technique. Totally wet on dry technique, because you are starting with nothing but puddles of water that you move. And that's what this particular technique in watercolor is all about, is you're moving the puddles of water across the surface. And this is hot press watercolor paper. As a lot of times I'll use cold press, which has a texture to it. This is hot press. That means the fibers of the paper have been pressed with heat as they're drying. And that's how you get the nice flatter surface in hot press paper. It's still absorbent, but it is not as absorbent, and it's got a bit more size on it, because I don't take off the size on the paper. Some people, you know, they'll wet down the paper and stretch it before they use it. I do not do that with my paper. I take it straight off the pad or straight from the art supply store and stretch, and basically I just use tape. You'll notice the blue tape around here. This is your standard watercolor painter's tape. I will sometimes use Scotch Magic tape. Is a really good way to stretch your watercolor paper. It just so happened that I had some of the blue painter's tape, and it was available, and I've got it stretched on a regular canvas board that you use for acrylic painting, because they're inexpensive. Their base is chipboard, and they're rather strong, and I usually use the back side of them, not the canvas side, but the back side to tape my watercolor paper down to. Again, inexpensive, very sturdy, does the trick. Again, this is an overall one color, so I'm going to go in, this is all wet, there, and pull out some of that color so I can have some variety in the leaves. And what I'll do is I'll let that dry, and then I'll go in with another color. So you can tell too, I'm being more precise in these leaves as I'm painting it in, and it's trying to stay within the boundaries of the edges of the leaves, where I wasn't with the little sparkly leaves on the ground. And that's the thing too, is that because I haven't filled in the actual leaf itself, it'll give a little bit more varietal color. It'll feel more like sparkle. And it still gives that marvelous detailed feeling because I stippled in the color. And you'll note too, this is, like I said, this is liquid acrylic. It dries exceedingly fast. That area that I just finished, the leaves that I just finished before, this particular area, they've already dried. This stuff evaporates super fast. It's one of the reasons why I, beyond the fact that watercolor is probably the most inexpensive of the painting that you can work with, or the paints and materials that you can work with, watercolor is probably the least expensive. It also dries exceedingly fast. If you're working with oils, I know the best oil painters have ovens. They make their own ovens where they can dry the paintings fast, or they use dryers in the paint, because if you're going to do layers in oil painting, you know, it can take weeks sometimes for the oil to cure. So like I said, really good illustrators who work in oil will make their own oil painting ovens. Whereas with watercolor, I mean, it dries almost immediately. And being a storyboard artist, okay, that looks really nice. I like that. Okay, now I'm going to do the bottoms of these guys in the darker green, like I did the skunk cabbage portions, just to pull them down a little bit. Actually, I think I'm going to use some of the permanent green too. There. The only problem, like I said, the greens out of the tube I find are just a bit fake. It's green, but it's just, it doesn't feel like the green that you see in nature. Greens in nature, I mean, the chartreuse. Actually, you know, when you think about when you look at green grass on a fresh day, I mean, it gets to be that color, but even then, as Judy Crook, my color teacher in college, used to say, Lord, she was amazing, is that when you paint in a color like green, the shadow goes into its complement. So whenever you're going into a shadow like green, you want to add red. If you want it to go darker and feel natural, you'll use red. Or if you're doing blue, you add orange. No kidding. Yellow. Take purple shadows on yellow. It looks so amazing. Okay, I'm throwing a little bit of that yellow orange into this. Yeah, that's good. To warm it up a bit. Yeah, and the thing is that, see that yellow there? What I'll do is turn that into a second blade, and you know, with grass, you'll find that there is yellow in amongst the green blades. So I'm using this both as an accent and that's good. And to help these blades stand out a little bit more. There we go. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, now I'm going to take some of that darker green we made. That's a little bit too dark. That's a little bit too dark. Yeah. I'll pull that out. And that's the thing, if something is not going the way you want it to, always use your paper towel and pull out what's not working. Give it a blot. The thing is that if you pull out too much, you can always go back and throwing some turquoise in the shadows, see what that does. Not sure if I like it or not. I think it needs a mixture. And you got to remember, there's all that burnt sienna under here too. That's all of a sudden, you've got burnt sienna, I've got a little bit of turquoise in there, I got a little bit of sepia, or no, not sepia at this point. I've got the magenta tinged. This, what I'm painting right now, is the magenta tinged green. Now, mind you, the shoes are going to go dark. So what I'm probably going to do, once I get the shoes done and down, is I'm going to throw purple shadows on top of this green. Either purple or, like I said, I'll make a purple with mixing green and magenta together. Yeah. And that's what I'm doing right now. It's like, nah, I'm using that right now. Because this is all in shade right here. So it's underneath the shoes. And you'll notice how that all of a sudden made the shoes pop up when you throw that little bit of shadow under the shoes. to throw a little more shadow back in here. Well, it will be interesting is I'm going to pull this up too because that's a little bit too dark. And remember, whenever you're using watercolor, your shadows, anything that you paint will gets lighter as it dries. The liquid acrylic is actually better for maintaining the regular shadow. That's strange. Okay. Okay. And where the wings are here, and the dragonflies, you put just a little bit of green. Okay. My music's decided to be strange on me today. My apologies on that one. So now we're going to have silence because my music just quit on me. But anyways, we're just about done here on this portion anyways. The background is more or less done. I'll put probably a little bit more and give some shaping to these leaves here. Again, this is the magenta mixed in with the blue-green to give it that, it's a little bit dark. There we go. I said whenever things go down a little bit too dark, pull them up with your paper towel. It's like it's not going the way you want to. And the thing is that too, and if you pull up too much with the paper towel, you can always go over, what you just did again. It's better to err on the side of keeping it a little light than going too dark, because you can always darken it up, but lightening something up gets a little bit difficult. The other problem with liquid acrylic is once you lay it down too, that's kind of it. It's not like watercolor in the respect that you can go back in and pick up the pigment that you laid down because you didn't lay it down right in the first place. Liquid acrylic is not forgiving in that situation. So it's like when you do lay down your colors this time around, it's not, you could literally, if I did this in traditional watercolor, I could take it over to the sink and literally wash off everything that I had just done. You can do that with traditional watercolor, and you will get a pale image of what you've done. There'll still be color there, but you can almost take it back by just running it under the sink, and it will look amazing. Actually, sometimes it really looks amazing. If you feel like you really muddied up your work and it's not coming out the way you really wanted it to, and you're really unhappy with it, try it sometime. Be adventurous and take that watercolor painting you just completed over to the sink and, run the water on it, wipe it off with a paper towel, blow dry it, and you will be amazed at what you get. And sometimes it'll give you the solution that you were looking for. That green is just a little bit too. There's certain, like I said, when that green comes out of the bottle, it's not as nice as what you'd like it to be. That's why I really, really like, you'll notice, putting down the burnt sienna on the painting before we even started. See how much that, you can't see the burnt sienna now, but it comes through in these nice little rich speckles of color. And that's the initial background. I haven't decided what I want to do with the water yet. I'm thinking, let's do this right now. I'm thinking the sienna here. I want to keep it really, really light. And I'm thinking brown because it is a swamp. And what I might come in is with a little, I'm thinking little touches of turquoise in there. I'm going to pull this through. And this is sepia with green in it, is what I've... And then all I'm going to do is just a hint. And this I'm really got to take back. I'll put a lot of water in this. Just a little bit of turquoise. A little bit of turquoise blue. And I'm stippling that in to the damp sepia that I added with a little bit of green. And then just let that sit for a few moments so it starts to stain. And then I'm going to pull that out too. Yeah, that look better. There we go. Yeah. And I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. So this is the sepia with basically a little bit of green in it. It's really, really light. It's just like almost pure water. Because I want color there. But I don't want it to be, I want it to feel like you've got some moisture. But I want it, and I don't want it to be totally green. I want it to have a little bit of a blue hint to it. Because everything thus far is, that's really too turquoise. Okay, let's go there. Yeah. When you overdo something. See, and when I pulled it out, it's getting me more what I want. Which is just a hint of turquoise, just a little bit of blue to pull a little bit of something out. You got to remember too, I'm going to go in and the dragonflies are going to be blue. So that's it for now. When I come back, we're going to do the shoes. I will have the dragonflies done, the peepers done, and I'm going to go back in and do the shoes. And I'm going to do a vermilion on the inside of the shoes. It's like they're going to be black, and their tongues are going to be pink, and I'm going to try to do it like a light brown vermilion inside the shoes. So it's basically the red will draw your eyes to here, so you won't see them as the alligators first. The best part of doing a visual pun is where you see different readings in the piece. You'll see the shoes first, and then you'll see the alligators. Or you'll see the alligators, and then you'll see the shoes. So you have that double entendre type of reading. That's it for now. Thank you for coming to watch me do the background, and the next thing we'll do are the alligators. Thank you very much. Llyn Hunter. I have a Patreon if you'd like to help support what I do, and I give lots of digital stuff and discounts on my work, and you get to see all the things that I do there first. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.